For my independent reading project, I chose Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows by J.K. Rowling. We had to do this one on characterization, and I didn't really want to follow Harry as a character in this book. I really wanted to follow Ron Weasley because he's a really interesting character to follow in this book in terms of how he grows and how he matures in the novel. It's not as interesting to see that with Harry because Harry kind of already grew in the previous 6 novels. Harry is sort of forced into maturity, if you will. He is under the eye of the media from the time that he's 11 years old when he enters the wizarding world, and he's constantly in danger from the Dark Lord. But with Ron this isn't the case. Ron just leads a normal life and is, to say the least, a nobody. Of course this is until he meets Harry Potter. I believe that Ron starts this book with not much more maturity than he had in the previous 6 novels. I don't think he has much more maturity than when he came to Hogwarts when he was 11. I think he grows and matures a lot more in the Deathly Hallows, though. I have a few quotes that I think pretty well show how Ron changes as a character and matures in this novel. The first quote I have says, The trace will break on the 31st, said Harry. That means I only need to stay here 4 more days, then I can... 5 days, Ron corrected him firmly. We've got to stay for the wedding. They'll kill us if we miss it. Harry understood they to mean Fleur and Mrs. Weasley. It's 1 extra day, said Ron, when Harry looked mutinous. I know this quote doesn't exactly show what I want it to show, but there isn't one quote that really shows Ron's maturity level at the beginning of this book, because it kind of just shows as a whole throughout the series that he's just kind of ignorant and doesn't realize when something's important, and he's just a little bit oblivious to what's going on around him. I think this quote showed it best, though. It shows that he thinks that this Horcrux is just a thing that they have to do. He thinks it can wait another day for the wedding, when Harry knows that defeating Voldemort is more important than going to Fleur and Bill's wedding. The second quote I have is on the top of page 307. The second quote I have is at the top of page 307. It says, "So what part of this isn't living up to your expectations?" asked Harry. Anger was coming to his defense now. "Do you think we'd be staying in 5-star hotels, finding a Horcrux every other day? Did you think you'd be back to your mummy by Christmas?" On top of this being one of my favorite quotes in the book, I also think it shows that Ron is still ignorant and doesn't know what he got himself into. He doesn't really know what he signs up for, I don't think, and he just gets really upset and he runs away, and this just kind of shows that he's still kind of childish and running away, very irresponsible, immature thing to do, and he just leaves Ron and he just leaves Harry and Hermione on their own, and I don't think he realizes how much he affects them when he leaves. I think if this story were to be told from Ron's point of view, that this would be the climax of the story, because this is just kind of the turning point for Ron, and he even says, "As soon as I left, I wanted to come back," or something like that, and it's a very climactic moment for him in the novel. The last quote I have is in the middle of page 377. The last quote I have is in the middle of page 377. It goes, Ron looked toward him, and Harry thought he saw a trace of scarlet in his eyes. Ron? The sword flashed, plunged. Harry threw himself out of the way. There was a clang of metal and a long, drawn-out scream. Harry whirled around, slipping in the snow. One held ready to defend himself, but there was nothing to fight. The monstrous versions of himself and Hermione were gone. There was only Ron, standing there with the sword held slackly in his hand, looking down at the shattered remains of the locket on the flat rock. This is the scene where Harry follows the Doe Patronus into the forest, and there's an iced-over lake, and at the bottom of the lake, excuse me, is the sword of Godric Gryffindor. Harry casts Diffindo on the ice, and the surface of the ice melts. He dives in and tries to get the sword, but he leaves the Horcrux around his neck, and the Horcrux recognizes that there's something near it that can kill it, which is the sword of Godric Gryffindor, and it starts choking him under the water. Out of nowhere, basically, Ron just comes and he saves Harry from the water. And because he acted brave and chivalrous, the sword of Godric Gryffindor presents itself to him. And so now Ron has to defeat the Horcrux, and that's where the scene picks up. I think it shows pretty well that Ron is now up to a challenge. He is no longer childish and irresponsible, but he's realized that he was being childish and irresponsible, and that now he's ready for the challenge, and he knows what he's getting into, and he's ready to help hunt Horcruxes with Harry and Hermione. So, like I said, Ron doesn't really do a lot of growing as a character in the other novels, but in this novel, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, I believe that he does a lot of growing and a lot of changing and a lot of maturing, and I think by the end of the novel, he's so much less like a child, he's more responsible, and he realizes what he has to do as an adult. And, I mean, he's still a joking, fun person to read, but in this novel he realizes that he needs to be an adult and he needs to be mature and responsible, and these are all things he becomes by the end of the novel, especially in the scene with him killing the Horcrux. So, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Lovely book. So, Sam, that was my independent reading project on characterization. I think Ronald Weasley is a very interesting character. He's one of my favorite characters in Harry Potter, actually. And in this book especially, he's very interesting. I've kind of decided that while you're gone, I'm going to do a Harry Potter themed week, and for Word Wednesday, I'm going to do a Harry Potter word, maybe like something out of Fantastic Beasts, or maybe the word Quidditch or something. And I'm planning on making some pumpkin juice, doing some Harry Potter. So my battery died, so I had to charge the battery, and in that time, probably a few things have changed, so that's probably why the video looks different. But what was I saying? I was saying that, next week is going to be a themed Harry Potter week. I'm going to make some pumpkin juice, possibly, if I can figure out a way, do some Harry Potter trivia. For Word Wednesday, I'll do a Harry Potter word. What else did I want to do? And I can't think of what else I wanted to do. There's something else, but I'll try to think of it. And also, if everyone else watching, and Sam, you want to suggest some things for me to do for my Harry Potter themed week, that would be fantastic. And also, I want you to give me a little bit of feedback on my Deathly Hallows report. I really want to give a good presentation on Wednesday in English class. So, tell me what you thought of that. I'm not too sure about the conclusion, so it would be nice to have a little bit of feedback about the conclusion, and other things as well. So, goodbye, Sam, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow to make one last vlog before your trip to the Virgin Islands. But no pressure, so goodbye.